Good morning, everyone. I'm going to move around a bit, so if you can't hear me, let me know, and I'll come back to the microphone here. It's great to be here. Thanks for taking the time. I do understand just how busy you all are, so I hope you find this as an informative and relaxed conversation about brand and customer experience. Can I also thank Larry and the team from Webqem, a brilliant team of practitioners who we've worked closely with in the past. Lots of talk about digital agencies out there, lots of pretenders in our view. These guys are the true professionals, and we've really enjoyed the relationship. So thanks for hosting today, Larry and the Webqem team. Let's get underway. And this is what we're here to talk about: brand and customer experience. A modern day chicken and egg, and the old question of what comes first, brand or customer experience, and we're going to unpack that. There's been any number of conversations, even earlier this morning, about which of these comes first. So that's the heartland of what we're about to talk about today. So what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about brand and customer experience and what they both mean. We're going to unpack brand briefly for you. I know we've got a room full of marketers here, but it'd still be good just to remind ourselves exactly what brand is and what it isn't. We're also then going to go on to define customer experience as well, and what that is actually means. We're going to talk about various approaches. We're going to talk about some absolutes. We're going to talk about if we did nothing but focus on brand and almost ignored customer experience, what would occur, and the reverse. If all we did was talk about customer experience and ignored brand, what would be the consequences? We've got a few examples of that to talk through. We're also going to make some recommendations, unsurprisingly, about what we believe to be the right way forward, based on some research that we've done with 14 CMOs across the Sydney marketplace, and I'll talk more about that. And we're also going to have you folks do some work. We're going to have you complete a little questionnaire where we're going to have you evaluate how well you think your brand is performing against a set of key drivers, and how well you're performing in the customer experience space. So that's a little exercise we're going to run through. It'll take you five minutes or so, nothing more. We're going to collect those from you, and then once we're going to then assemble all of that data and send it back to you. We're going to tell you you'll obviously know what your score is, and then you'll know the average or mean for the room, so you can see how you're performing relative to others. So a little leave behind in the context of data and data collection. It might be argued that this is an offline presentation, but we're trying to bring data to the table as part of this as well. So that should be interesting for you. So what's brand? Well, Larry mentioned this is one of my old stomping grounds. I was there for 6 years and enjoyed every moment of it. It's a formidable brand, but what we're seeing here is a series of logos over time. This is not what brand is. You all know that. It's also not mission statements. It's not just about statements on a wall. That statement reminded me in the context of the Royal Commission, and perhaps that's quite an illuminating and straightforward mission statement that doesn't appear to have worked for many in the sector. It's a sad time for the financial services sector, some lessons from the past perhaps, and as someone who's ex-AMP, I feel for those folks at the moment. Anyway, back to what's brand. A reason to choose, a set of expectations, memories, stories and relationships sit behind a consumer's decision, and a brand is what your business stands for in people's minds. We also talk about brand being the movie that plays in your head. When I say Rolex, when I say Mercedes-Benz, when I say BMW, there's an immediate image that's created. So said another way, what's brand? And I'll move quite quickly through this because we've got a bit to get through, but choose a car, folks. There's your decision criteria. You've got the pricing, you've got engines, you've got transmission types, you've got maximum speed for the rev heads in the room, and we've got acceleration as well. So we're all pretty clear, aren't we? We've looked at the diagnosis, we've decided which one we want. Or perhaps is this easier? Because that's the sum of the experiences and memories, shared feelings that you've had with each of those organisations. It could be an Alfa Romeo that was a rust bucket that you had in the early days. It could have been a next door neighbour who had a Lexus who you didn't like. It could be a BMW that you always dreamed of owning one day. Brands are all about those shared moments and shared meaning. And there's absolutely an emotional connection in brand on every occasion. So ultimately, what is a brand? The simple unifying thought that guides what you do and how you do it. And when you do it well, it's amazingly powerful. There's data out of the S&P 100 in the US that talks about strong brands delivering 42.9% greater returns relative to the others on the S&P index. So when it works well. Ultimately, it's a promise as well, a promise that needs to be kept. What about customer experience? Well, the meeting point between customer needs and your offer and how your customers interact with your business. It's every single touch point and every moment that your customer experiences on the journey and their interactions over time with your brand. Said another way, it really is absolutely everything that you see on that slide. Advertising, sponsorship, merchandising, digital media, office and reception areas. All of these things communicate customer experience. Our call centres and the experience I have there when I call in, obviously web, UI, UX, and the experience I have there as well. So it is the sum of all those parts. But the key question today is, what comes first? Does brand lead and customer experience follow? Or will a strong CX create a strong brand? So just as a quick show of hands, who thinks it's about brand leading? Just a show of hands that it's all about brand? And then, so customer experience, so it's the balance. Well, this is going to be an interesting conversation this morning. It's going to be very interesting. We might be changing a few things. All right, so that's good. All right, so let's talk about the research that we conducted. And I'll just grab a book here. This is a brand leaders report. This is available online on our website. It's quite a comprehensive document. And we're here to talk about chapter 5 today. And that was really about asking this question about customer experience. We know that there's been a lot more conversation about customer experience, sometimes at the expense of brand, and it feels like brand's fallen away a little. And the show of hands there just demonstrated that as well. So we went to the marketplace. A number of these are key clients of ours, but these are the folks we went to. And we said, talk to us about brand today in your marketplace. Talk to us about your market, your competitors, your business strategy, your brand strategy, your customer experience strategy. We learned from some of the best and the brightest minds in the Sydney and Australian marketplace, cross industry, cross sector, everything from industrial marketplace to education, professional services and financial services, which is a key marketplace for us. So what was our hypothesis? Well, we went in and say, well, you know, brand is the only thing that really matters. It's all about brand. The customer experience is the latest fad. It's popular because you can measure it. You know, that thing called NPS. A boardroom isn't complete without a net promoter score these days. And so we thought it really is all about customer experience. Well, that was the view that the marketplace had. We wanted to test that. We wanted to contest that. And we know that in a world of short-termism, it's a quick way to make short-term improvements. Markets, CEOs, investors are looking for quick results. NPS and customer experience is a clear way to measure that. So we went in going, it's all about brand. There you go, that's it. That's the end of the presentation. So, well, we were wrong. It isn't all about brand. Brand's very important. We wouldn't take that away from a moment. But when we thought that it was all about brand and customer experience didn't really matter, well, unsurprisingly almost, we thought that there might be a little bit more to that. So let's talk about this. There was a spectrum of attitudes. On the left-hand, on your left-hand side, the folks here that there was a part of the market that said brand is integral to delivering the customer experience. For us, it's all about brand. We also had the other side. So our 14 folks that we spoke to who said brand's completely separate to delivering customer experience. And as the quote there says, our CEO tends to think that if we can build excellent customer experience, then we'll end up with a brand as a result of that. All we've got to do is get the CX right, and we're home and hosed. We're done here. So two very, very different schools of thought. So let's look at some examples. I talked at the outset about some absolutes. Let's talk about all brand and no customer experience. That was essentially our starting point to some extent. We thought that the higher order purpose guides everything you do. People live and breathe values and mission, and the brand is on its way, the business growth is to occur. But when you do that, there's much less consultation with customers because you're just too myopic here. There's a shallow view of the day-to-day needs of customers. Do you really understand what their needs are and what their unmet needs are? You also take your eye off the ball in terms of emerging technologies. What else might be happening out there? And the other thing that you miss is what's happening with others who are entering the marketplace, who've got a different way of doing things. So, an example. Here's an iconic brand, one we'd all know, that has, I think it's fair to say, lost its way. It's talked about, we could talk about a Nine and Fairfax merger, but it's really a Nine takeover of Fairfax. This is an iconic suite of brands, but it's had its challenges very recently. We'd argue this is part of the problem, that they really did focus on their brands and building out brands at the expense of the customer experience, and with a lack of understanding of just how different people interact with media today. So they just continued to deliver more and more solutions off the back of an unclear strategy. So this is the outcome. You know, the focus internally was around advertising and the classifieds. We're going to look backwards rather than looking forwards. There was much confusion about the parent brand, the role of Fairfax Media with the mastheads. And I think there was a prevailing resistance to the internet and the crisis of confidence around paywalls. You know, how do we get people to engage with our brand? So what are the lessons from Fairfax? Well, there's a false belief in the power of the masthead. They really thought, looking backwards into the brands and mastheads like the Sydney Morning Herald, like the AFR, like the Age, they failed to see the competition and what was happening with the internet and just how people were digesting media compared to what they thought they should be doing. There was a business that really failed to stay relevant in a rapidly changing world. But we can't be too hard on Fairfax. They're not the only one. Nokia is a brand that we used to all carry around in our pockets. They were an innovator. They really thought they had the market. Everyone had a 3310 in their pocket in the old days, but they really did lose their way. Look at this. Who remembers Blockbuster and the experience there? But again, focused on what they'd been, not where the market was moving to. They lost touch with their customers and the way they were seeking information and seeking entertainment fundamentally through and being disrupted by brands like Netflix, etc. BlackBerry or Crackberry, and even Coke, we believe, has got some challenges in terms of its customer experience and its relevance. It just keeps doing the same thing. If you look at its overall penetration of beverage consumption, it's in decline. If you look at the value of its brand relative to, say, 10 years ago, market value of its brand, it's also down quite significantly. So if we run all brand, what are the risks? Well, we get quite complacent, don't we? We just think that we've got the brand, nothing else matters, and we can move forward. We lose the relevance that we have with our customers. We don't actually understand what's really important to them. There's a level of arrogance that sort of weaves its way through here. We lose the contemporary understanding, and then what happens? We get disrupted. All right, let's look at the other let's just flip this coin and talk about all customer experience and no brand. So we run a customer first mentality. It's all about our customers. There's a holistic approach, the customer journey. We understand the touch points and the criticality of each of those and delivering to the needs and wants of people on every step of the journey, through searching, through purchase, through post-purchase. And we look at a blend of high touch and high tech. But there's no single organising thought here when you are just focused around customers and reacting to what your customers are seeking. The different approaches across channels isn't really considered, and then there's inconsistent messages and experiences that relates or that results as well. So a very contemporary lesson from Coles. This was a very creative environmentalist who I think created this piece of design. It's interesting even at a design level of just how well your brain connects that through to Coles, and I think we need to think about, well, what went wrong here? Well, in our view, Coles had no clear and compelling vision. It didn't really understand what its brand was about, didn't know where it was heading. It was reacting desperately to the marketplace. It didn't know what its position was on its environment or how its brand would guide its decision making. It followed the competition every which way. And it was at the whim of its customers, completely reactive and sending all the wrong messages, taking a very small proportion of the population who complained, either at the register or on social media, and reacting accordingly, creating a crisis of confidence for the brand, devoid of leadership, all about fellowship. So if we were to look at just CX alone, are there organisations who can do it well? Well, these are two disruptor brands who have done a sensational job of building out and reinventing customer experience through discontinuous change. You know, Uber was far greater than just another taxi experience, a completely different way of interacting, and Airbnb. So in this context, they focused exclusively around an entirely different and new customer experience and succeeded as a result of it. So it can work. But then the question is, how long can it work for? So when we talk about all CX and the risks, we're at the whim of customer sentiment. We're either a fast or a slow follower, and we're certainly not the leader there. We're vulnerable to challenges that might arrive. Even Uber and Airbnb have now got fast followers entering their market, and so now they need to consider, well, what is our brand's point of difference? There's the inability to differentiate from the competition, and the big challenge that we believe when you've exclusively focused around all CX is that there's the slow decision making, because you continue to react. You're pivoting every time you get a new piece of data from the market or from your customers. So the obvious question is, what's the right way to treat the two? You won't be surprised to hear that we think that there's a perfect mix. This is how we see it. Brand and customer experience operating in yin and yang. The brand promise sets the experience. The brand makes the promise, and then the customer experience delivers to that. That's really how we believe this works. So the question we've got for you all this morning is, where do you all sit? Just like you to mark off where you believe you're performing across brand and customer experience. The outer ring of the circle is where you'd be most powerfully positioned. So if you've ever done any work with a circumplex before, just provide the mark on how you think you're performing against each of those brand drivers. And then once you've done the brand side, have a look at the reverse of the document and think about how you're performing on what we see as the key drivers in an ideal customer experience. So just take a moment to do that. So brand, how are you performing on a rating of 0 to 5? It is, isn't it? 5 is strong, 0 is weak. So if you've got a clear vision, you'd be marking it out at 5. If you've got a strong growth trajectory, you'd be marking it out at 5 again, etc. So to what extent are you distinctive on a 0 to 5? 5's the strongest. So take a moment to have a look at that. So if you've had a moment to do that, so we've rapidly asked you to give yourself a rating on brand and customer experience, and then draw the circumplex out. Can you put just your name and your email at the top, and then we'll collect these at the very end. And as I said, we're going to send you back your scores, but we'll also send you back the score for the entire room. So you've got some sense. You'll obviously maintain confidentiality, but we'll tell you what the mean or the average is for the room, so you can look at how you went compared to how everyone else went. So is everyone just about done there? I'm keen to get you out of here on time. So what do the best brands look like? So I'd love to think that there was anyone in the room who secured something as strong as this, but more likely you might look something like this, where from a customer experience point of view, you're highly supportive. Beautiful store. So a good example from our point of view of brand lead and customer experience delivers. So the brand makes the promise, and then the customer experience expresses that. It sets the expectations. The brand sets the expectations, and then it's delivered via the experience. Other examples, we went across the team and said to the team at Brand Matters, what other brands can we point to that have got a great customer experience? Apple is obviously one. Genius bars, just a concierge when you arrive, people in blue shirts who are passionate about being there to assist and serve you. A brand that Lauren loves being Icebreaker, out of using merino wool, as I understand it, specialist merino wool, built out of custom-made clothing in New Zealand. And now when you purchase the clothing, it's got the origins. When you purchase it, you can actually find out the origins of the wool of the jacket that you've purchased. You know the complete heritage, the farm, the farmer, the region, the flock of sheep. So it binds you to that experience. OT Hotels, if anyone stayed there, again, a beautiful experience, a very tailored experience that they deliver on a one-to-one basis. Specific cocktails in the rooms, individual concierge, having you move to the room, a level of understanding of you when you go there, which builds such a powerful experience. Getting back to theory for a moment, and Purvi in our team is an expert in the context of design thinking and customer experience, and she's contributed this thinking, which goes to brand experience, the intersection between customer desires, business aspirations and tools and channels. More simplistically, our view is that the desirable, the customer experience is the piece, the piece that the brand is making. That's the promise around desirability, that we understand what our customers seek, want and expect from us. And there's a balance between that in terms of the feasibility. Can we deliver on the promise? Is it feasible? And financially, is it viable? Can we make a profit on the brand and the experience that we're making? We just need to look at the examples of Woolworths and Aldi just to see how different their experience turns up for them based on their brand and the promise it's making, and then the experience that you receive in store. So when we get this right, what does it look like? Well, decision making is much more streamlined and efficient. We actually know what the promise that the brand's making. We also know the experience that's going to deliver against that promise. So the experience is absolutely delivered consistently in store or through the UI, UX online world. Staff are empowered to deliver. They understand what the brand is, what the promise is, and how they're expected to deliver that experience so that the promise is kept. And every touch point layers to support the brand's purpose. And ultimately, you become distinctive and memorable. We summarise this across these three words in the report that I mentioned, that there are three things that we deliver against. If we've got clarity, if we know what we need to do, if all of us are clear from the CEO all the way through to the people on the shop floor or the UX or UX designers creating that online e-channel experience, then things become very clear. Once we've got the clarity there, we then know how to deliver that consistently. And we do it every single time. And then ultimately that sums to confidence. Confidence that our people understand what the promise is that they're supposed to be making within the customer experience. And our customers have also got confidence and trust that they will experience the promise that the brand is making. When that's delivered every time, we build a strong brand. At the end of the day, this is all about promises and expectations being met. If you set a promise and you deliver to that expectation every time, you will build a strong brand. If you don't deliver to the expectations through a poor customer experience, your brand will suffer. So what are the key learnings here this morning? Well, brand is the promise. The customer experience is how you deliver on that promise. And how well you understand that promise, and then how well you deliver, determines how strong your brand is. When you get the balance right, that's how you stand out from competition. And when brand informs that client experience, we get clarity from the most senior to the most junior. We all understand internally exactly what it is. We get to a point where we're aligned behind values and it becomes unconscious. It's part of the culture. We absolutely understand what the brand is about and what we have to do to meet clients' expectations. We do that consistently to build trust, and ultimately we build confidence. Confidence in our own people, in their ability to deliver. Confidence with our clients or our customers knowing that we're going to deliver against that promise as well for them. Ultimately, it then goes to, I understand what the brand is and what a great customer experience they've got. It goes all the way through to investors. It goes to the community, that you'll do the right thing. It goes to employees thinking about joining the organisation as well. I know what the brand is. I know what it's about. Measurement's obviously critical. You can't build out a brand with any level of salience or power without understanding exactly how your brand's performing. How many people are aware? Do we understand our target audience? How many are considering our brand, and how many are preferring our brand, and how we track that over time? We do a lot of work in that area. So where to from here? In summary, the brand needs to define its brand positioning. We need to know our North Star. We need to know who we are, what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and how we're different. We need to know what we stand for. We need to map the customer journey. UX, UI, online, offline. We need to look at ways to deliver on brand. We need to think about the big moments, the smaller moments. We need to think about what delights our customers in that experience and what might horrify them. You know, what could go wrong, so that we track that. We set key metrics for success, and then we refine and recalibrate over time, checking in on a quarterly, annually, half-yearly basis, depending on the sales cycle of your business. So, apart from taking any questions, if you want to learn more in relation to what we've talked about this morning, we'll send you a follow-up email with all the test results. You can download off our website the entire document around brand leaders, which includes Chapter 5, which talks about brand and customer experience quite specifically. Or you can obviously just get in touch with any of us at any time through the website, and a large portion of the team from Bray Matters are here today.